Europe, or even in manufacturers in Asia. With that, it leads to our first key question of how can Volkswagen Group restructure its core operation to make sure its adaptability to the market change. If we're flipping the table and look at the competitors here, you cannot just consider about the new emerging player, including Tesla or BYD. You need to remember that your price point is not aligned or in the same level with them. You need to also consider the traditional players who stand long in the market, same as you, including of Mercedes, BMW, your neighborhood, or even Toyota and Lexus, a large player from Japan. We acknowledge that all these players have the key differentiation value that they focus, but what about Volkswagen Group? They have lost its perception long time ago. And if we take a look at the customers, we're seeing that your customers are the group that had high income and value social status and seeking for high quality car. And when they consider purchasing car, they face three main processes. The first one is pre-purchase, when they're browsing all the options in the market to make sure it matches their need and also their personality. In this, you need to win them by regaining your position and perceptions among the customers. And second is dueling purchases, with the 10 browsings across car dealers in the country to make sure they get the best offer. And you can have a chance to losing this group of customers to other players in the market. With that, it leads to our second key question of how can Volkswagen Group gain its position in the market and generate the sales. With two identified key questions, we're proud to present to you our two strategic pillars, set the base and ace your goal. We'll set the base where we'll strengthen Volkswagen capability and prioritizing utility to maximize profitability. And second is ace your goal, where you're starting establish a brand identity and building community to generate a long-term benefits. And so, Pat, let's walk us through your strategies.
Thank you very much, Pasini. Now, let me introduce you to our first strategy, set the base. With the goal to grow sustainably in mind, Volkswagen needs to first strengthen its internal operations. And it currently has two key challenges in over contribution from its employees and excess capacity in its planned locations. With employees currently being able to share what they think about the strategic decisions that the company should take, this increases decision-making time and thus makes Volkswagen less agile to the market. And additionally, with excess capacity in its plant location, this means that Volkswagen needs to incur additional operation costs that it can use to turn to other things else. So, with the first focus of how can we make sure that employees can contribute meaningfully and engagingly to Volkswagen, we introduce you to the first strategy of setting up a team representative among each department to discuss about the idea that they have about the strategic decisions of the company in the monthly town hall meeting. And with this, each department can share what they think about the company, share their knowledge and market insights in order to truly come together and form an informed decision about what Volkswagen should take in their next strategic steps. However, this may create a gap. The gap lies in the fact that some employees may still lack the necessary market knowledge and business insights to truly prioritize what is the next strategic direction that Volkswagen should take. Therefore, we encourage you to use an educational platform, specifically Edpuzzle, to train your employees. With this mandatory video, where each employee will be able to learn about market insights update weekly in a less than 10 minutes video, head departments can also ensure that they can track engagement from the employees alongside with asking up mandatory check-in questions to ensure that the employees are truly understanding what they are learning and that they are truly staying informed. Now that we have set up what the employees need in order to make informed decisions, we are going to tackle the next question of the current excess capability in its plant locations. And we see that in the manufacturing plants, Volkswagen currently has Volkswagen has currently decided to shift its direction, and thus this leaves us with excess capacities in its plant locations. So we choose to do two things. First, we are going to restructure 3 of its plants, and we are going to also sell off some of its plants by basing this on the criteria of strategic location alongside with the performance evaluation of each planned location. Additionally, with the restructuring, we are planning to do OEM with other companies in order to use our manufacturing sites as their manufacturing sites and gain know-how knowledge from the manufacturing companies. This is what BYD has done in the past in order to gain competitive knowledge among this fierce competitive market. And with this, we have strengthened the internal capabilities of Volkswagen. So Patamon, take it away for us on how we can further reach our customer.
Thank you, Sopat. So now, let's move on to our second strategy. Let's move on to our second strategy of acing your goal. So, to ace your goal with the aim of establishing the brand identity and communicate to public to generate sales. Sorry. Okay, so to understand this more, let's meet Oi. Oi is a 30-year-old woman with a car owner, and that her perception of Volkswagen car is not as luxury as it used to be. Volkswagen car for her used to be the indicator of her social status, but that currently, nowadays with the emerging EV cars and the competitors, Volkswagen car currently lose that position. And second, generally, when Oi are taking time to make her decision in buying a car, she takes a very long time as she needs to compare the price with the dealer and also choosing the model as well. So that leads to the risk of her not buying a car at all or choosing to buy a car late. And that the key implementation for this is that we need to strengthen the brand identity and also enrich the customer's decision-making time. And that leads to 3 pillars that we need to tackle on: think, choose, and buy to the customer. So now, let's move on to think. So to strengthen its concept and positioning, for the car to strengthen its position, we utilize the core competencies of the 3 things. First, their price, function, and class. So now, let's take the Audi car model as an example, as it has the most optimum price among all. So that what we are going to communicate is the price is affordable and function that meets their everyday life, and also the class that is have the echelon driving experience. So to gain its luxury position, we create the concept of the echelon sport, the car that offers luxurious driving experience through Europe-led technologies and styles. So how are we going to communicate this with the customers? So first, we are going to promote on the advertisement both on our online platform and our offline platform as well, and that we are going to utilize the F1 Audi car driver to promote their functionality and also the safetiness of the car as well. And that we are going to communicate as the starter price and take the Audi model as an example of this. Next, we are going to tackle on the problem when customers are choosing the car, and that they take long time to make the decision, and that they need to compare the price between the dealers as well, and that we introduce you to the one price model. So the one price model is also successfully utilized by Mercedes-Benz that implemented this model as well, and that they faster the decision to buy and also faster our revenue gain. And next is buy. So to strengthen the community, my colleagues are happy to elaborate on this.
Thank you very much, Patamon. Now, with our buy strategy, now that we have strengthened Volkswagen, specifically the Audi brand in one of its car portfolios, identity as the echelon driving experience, and we have also bridged the gap that customers need to usually take the time to make decisions before they decide to buy which car they want. We are trying to stay engaged with our customers in the long run. By celebrating their purchasing milestone with Volkswagen, we introduced you to the Echelon Club. And this is what we are trying to leverage their buying experience with. So first, in their first milestone purchasing of Volkswagen's car, we are going to let them choose the specific color that they want for their car in order to tailor their personalities to their vehicles. And secondly, when they buy more than 2 of Volkswagen's car, we are going to introduce them to exclusive events and exclusive activities for them to form a community of Volkswagen's customers, and so that they can stay informed about updates about Volkswagen's cars and also gain a sense of exclusivity when they buy the car, that we truly care about them. So then Atipat, can you walk us through the financial impact?
Absolutely, Suvapat. But before we dive deeper into the number of the finance and impact, I want you to take a look at the qualitative impacts that is going to occur by implementing our strategies. Starting with set the base, we are going to be able to reduce customer decision-making time by having the one price strategies, and we are going to be able to increase market agility as we have set up the team leader for our departments in the Volkswagen Group, as well as increase employee knowledge as they have been educated by using our education program. As for ACE the goal, we will be able to reduce customer decision-making time. This is mainly due to the one price model as well. And we're going to be able to gain customer awareness by making our promotional marketing content using the Audi F1 drivers. And we're going to be able to increase customer perceived value as we have the Echelon Club for the car buyers. Now let's look at the implementation timeline. To be able to make sure that Volkswagen Group successfully implement this, we must carefully consider the implementation plan. So there are 3 key main action steps that Volkswagen Group could do starting today. First, Volkswagen could evaluate plans whether Volkswagen Group want to sell this plan or they want to reformat it to the OEM manufacturing side. Second, they must look for the team leader to lead that department. And third, they must monitor the regulatory changes worldwide, including the USA and China specifically because of the reciprocal tariff implemented by President Donald Trump. Now, as for our future implementation plans, starting with set the base, in 2026, we're going to set up the team as well as develop the infrastructure needed for the plan reformat as well as reformatting the first plan. And in 2027, we're going to reformat the second plan as well as in 2028, we're going to reformat the third plan. And in 2027, we are going to have our first reformatted plan to be ready to tackle the OEM manufacturing part. As for our ACE the goal, we're going to, in 2026, we're going to set up the one price model for our Volkswagen Group vehicles. And in addition to the one price model, we're going to build our identity by the Echelon model. And across 2026 to 2030, we're going to have marketing event as long as event in the Echelon Club for the Volkswagen vehicle buyers to be able to participate in. Number-wise, Volkswagen Group will gain an accumulated incremental revenue of $3.28 billion. This is mainly driven by the increase in OEM production as we have established our 3 plans for OEM production. And Volkswagen, and in addition to the OEM unit that we are going to sell, we also have the incremental in the number of cars that the Volkswagen Group will be selling from our marketing campaign. And in 2030 alone, we expect to manufacture more than 21,000 OEM cars, as well as sales more than 4,000 incremental units across the Volkswagen Group. And these translate to an incremental revenue of approximately 1.31 billion US dollar. But what about the cost? Volkswagen Group will incur a total cost of 2.281 billion US dollar. This will be mainly divided into 2 categories. The capital expenditure of approximately 880 million US dollar and the operating expenditure of approximately 1.4 billion US dollar. The main cost of our recommendations are obviously the cost of manufacturing, restructuring plan, infrastructure development, and the communication cost. Now, there are some risks associated with our recommendations. So, our biggest risk is obviously the car dealer rejecting our one price model, and this can be easily mitigated by starting small with company mandate policy, and then we can scale this policy into many countries later on. Now, Pasini, could you walk us through the summary of our recommendation?
With our current situation today, we know that Volkswagen need a turnaround strategies. We're starting with build the base, but we're starting with restructuring our cooperation to make sure it can adapt to the market fast enough to realize revenue. Starting with the first one, when we introduce our education platform, our employees to make sure they can walk through with us in the journey, make a meaningful decision, and successfully implement in these strategies. And the second is about when we introducing an OEM model, we're utilizing the our production capacities and close down some of manufacturers to ensure profitability. And on the same time, introducing the S-the-Go strategies, we plan to identify and differentiate ourselves from competitors by introducing the echelon models and the one pricing strategies to reduce the time decision makers for our consumers. And lastly, the last part of the S-the-Go strategies is where we introduce an echelon club. We will make sure the customers stay engaged as a community and remain with Volkswagen Group. Now, with our two-pronged strategies, we believe that Volkswagen can continue to lead in this market right here, right now, where it's all started. Thank you for the presentations, and now the floor is open for the Q&A.
We want to now proceed to the Q&A session. Judges, have 15 minutes for Q&A.
Thank you, Prosper. A few questions or observations. Firstly, you've addressed the supply side issues, if you will, people, excess capacity, manufacturing as a foundation. But why didn't you build on that and build onto the more macro issues? And that is to say, where is the Volkswagen Group going to focus? Which markets? Europe, US, China? I didn't see any of that in the presentation, so that's my first comment. And secondly, as a result of that, I don't really know how you're going to get to 3.3 billion accumulated revenue in 2030. So why were you not able to sort of build on the logic of the supply side into the marketing and then into the P&L and the CapEx? Was my sort of general comment. Question, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so I will be happy to take on the first question about the supply side and also what exactly where Volkswagen want to market. Starting with the supply side first of our car manufacturers, where exactly can we want to operate now? We consider two factors, and my colleagues have mentioned about theoretical benefits that we can gain. For example, from China right now, we face a lot of tariff from US. That's one of the reasons why we choose to prioritize China here. And in the same time, for the market that we want to sell, we know that in USA right now, the uncertainty of the regulations, including tariff, and also the criticism toward EV is not uncertain. That's also the reason why we prioritize USA. And at the same time, in Europe, the market is already saturated. The regulatory have been pushed the EV for the customers for the past few years. So the market that we want Volkswagen to focus first is actually in Asia, starting in China, Thailand, and Singapore. And I think my colleagues can add on about how can we build up revenue and how can we achieve this.
Yes, so absolutely. As you can see on our appendix, our revenue comes from two sources mainly. So first, OEM production. We believe that the average selling price of OEM across the industry is approximately $15,000, and our manufacturing plant will be able to produce up to 7,000 cars in one plant. So as you can see, by 2030, we're going to have that $15,000 by the capability we can manufacture from the three sites. So if you times that number up in 2030, as you can see, you get $945 million. Now from the second source, which will be the additional unit sales. So we believe that the average unit price across all Volkswagen Group, including Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, and all, the average selling price approximately $90,000, and if we time that by the number of units we are expecting to get from our marketing campaign, we're going to get the additional revenue from sales. And if you add those two up together across 2026 to 2030, that is where approximately $3 billion come from.
Okay, so sorry, where in your presentation were you talking about the geographic analysis? I think I might have missed that one.
So actually, we have analyzed the geographic location based on the current operation that Volkswagen is operating in, and we've seen that we map this based on continent first. And so we see that with the current, our focus on Asia and with the current high competition in China, we actually based our strategy on Thailand specifically as well, since Thai people have still have strong impression of Volkswagen growth specifically, and we see that this market still has room for growth as well. In addition, it is also close to the supply chain of Volkswagen. That's why we try to build from that. And with the current communication strategy in Thailand, we aim to use this as a scalable blueprint in order to expand to other countries as well.
In your map, you mentioned about OEM manufacturing. What specific area or geographical location that you focus on?
So currently, Volkswagen has a plant in areas such as Europe and Mexico as well. So we plan to, since we have a strong capability in terms of Europe being the first car manufacturers in Europe, we try to use this as our core strength and try to restructure our our manufacturing company in order to let other competitors who might want access into Europe to have the capability to also manufacture their cars in Europe, so that they can use Europe as one of the main points that they can use to distribute their cars to other locations in the world as well.
You say you have three pillars. What is price, what is function, plus is class. How you can actually make it price competitiveness, cost competitiveness in terms of having OEM manufacturing space in Europe. How you actually be able to differentiate your products, your service beyond what you are having with other competitors in terms of function and also in terms of class.
So let's start off with the price first. So with the price here, we know that not all of the Volkswagen product portfolio is affordable. And the example that we're choosing here is actually Audi. Audi is considered one of the lowest price entry or market entry for customers who want to try the Volkswagen Group products. That's why we focus on the price for the Audi itself. And for the function here, we acknowledge that we know Volkswagen always delivers a good quality products, including comfortness, ability to drive, or even a full savings car here. We know that Volkswagen will be able to compete in terms of qualities, but the problem that we see more now is about identity and the value perception when they see of the customer when they buy a car, they want to buy the one that is matching their personalities. It helps them enhance their social status, and we've seen that the value of Volkswagen nowadays are already facing considering the last few years ago. And I think my colleagues Pat can explain more about how exactly we want to build here.
So we're going to build on our three core main categories, that is price, function, and class. In that, we're going to promote on the online platform and also the offline platform by utilizing the F1 driver of the Audi, as well as it is currently a trend nowadays as well.
As you are deprioritizing the US, EU, and China because of the competitive landscape, right? And you want to focus on the Asia ex-China. With this strategy, I found that your sales forecasts are overly optimistic. How do you address this?
And so if you actually go to the sales forecast indicators booklet, right? We approximately we sales approximately 17 million car worldwide, and from our additional car that we are going to sell, the number is pretty conservative of 4,000. As you can see, in 2030, we're going to sell additional of 4,000 cars. So this number is actually the conservative case.
I have a question. So, currently for Volkswagen, currently before we go to implement your strategy, what percentage that Europe and America and China, each of these markets representing to your the whole company, and by 2030 finish implementation of that, what are the new market you plan to implement, what was that percentage would be?
So currently, right now, from our analysis, we believe that the main market for Volkswagen Group is in Europe. But following by Europe, we think that the US is the second largest market for Volkswagen Group, followed by Asia. So by implementing our strategies, we believe that Europe will stay on top as our key revenue for our Volkswagen Group. But by implementing our strategy, we believe that Asia will overtake the US and become the second highest contributor for Volkswagen Group revenue.
But Simis know that in USA right now the market is very uncertain about the tariff and everything, and in Europe itself the market is already saturated now, and we see a large opportunity line in especially Asia and China. That's where Volkswagen can capture the market here.
So your future market will be China and Asia.
That's right.
I guess there's a common theme here that is you have to build up the logic of this into the numbers. I think all our colleagues are asking the same thing. We have to Thailand and China to get the final P&L. You need to understand where you're building your market, production. There's three key markets: Europe, China, America, at the moment. How that drives into the numbers as well. I think that's just an observation of you. You might want to comment on that. Free to comment if you want.
So, based on our analysis, we understand that although you might not have the specific page allocated to that, but we have a backup analysis of we chose to prioritize Asia specifically due to we observe the customer behavior of still buying cars, and also we see the high willingness to pay among Asia, and also so we chose to map that down to Thailand specifically in order to first start with the group that is the most willing to pay, and additionally Thai people when they buy cars they also look for class as well, and with the echelon identity that we are trying to communicate to Thai people, we believe that this will be able to encourage them to buy our cars from our car portfolio, and then further than that, we can understand more about the Asian market and use that as a scalable blueprint of what we need to further tailor our marketing strategy or what we have to offer more to the customers in order to truly be able to capture the Asian continent.
What's your strategy towards EV versus ICE?
So to make sure we have the right understanding here, the ICE is here the combustion car. Okay. So we knowing that with the world is shifting to the EV car right now, and we know that your car capabilities right now is landing on the combustion car. And you have analyzed as well by partnering with a partner in China, including of the battery supply chain and also the expand with the technologies. We want you to also focus on an EV by introducing some of the classes to make sure it can adapt with the market, and also not abandoning the combustion car entirely, since we know that some of the geographical area, including of maybe in Southeast Asia or in Latin America, the combustion car is still a large market that we can potentially capture as well. It's not 100% shift to the EV, but we continuously adapt to the market and see which trend we can capture.
Are you also considering on the future mobility in terms of businesses and also thinking about investment in this kind of infrastructure? So, or you actually looking for more other marketing campaigns or other employee-driven strategy?
Yes, definitely. When we consider the market expansion for Volkswagen, of which area we want to focus on, we also need to think about the infrastructures, about the manufacturers or value chain that we need to focus on. And since we know that in Asia right now you have a manufacturer in China, but it may be not an optimal solution anymore, you can also consider opening factories in Vietnam or Thailand to make sure it's cost effective to sell in that region and not just export the car from Europe or Mexico to this area. And we also have an opportunity to maybe further explore into the technologies such as AI, as you mentioned in a case that there may be a new business model of taxi and also car sharing. But we know that there are many players in the market that are currently doing right now. For example, Jaguar is partnering with Uber to do a self-driverless. And if the opportunity comes, I think if Volkswagen have ready technologies, they is also ready to jump in this opportunity as well.
In addition to my colleague about the cost, if you actually go to my second appendix, we are happy to talk about the cost management. So the reason we built our three new reformat factory, the plan for OEM, we actually divide this investment into 3 phases, and this is going to be funded by 70% free cash flow. As we see that most of you are, as we see that we have become profitable in the last few years, and we believe that we have enough capability in using the free cash flow to fund this investment.
How is show in terms of profitability point of view?
So you're asking that by investing into this, how are we going to get profit from this investment, right?
Yeah, profitability margin and also financial.
Okay. So as I have mentioned earlier about the revenue, we're going to get an accumulated incremental revenue.
Thank you, judges.